What do you get when you combine Bugs Bunny, Firestarter, 12 Monkeys, and Rebel Without a Cause? Turns out absolute insanity, and one of the best movies of all time. Hello and welcome to a brand new series called What Made It Great, a show where I talk about iconic or underrated movies and TV shows and dig into what actually made them stand out, or, like in today's episode, still hold up after decades. Every year come Halloween season, besides the usual horror movie binges, I just find myself rewatching Donnie Darko. It's not really a horror movie per se, but there's just something eerie and hard to grasp about it, which makes it very ominous, but at the same time it's such a comfort watch as well. The small town atmosphere, the characters, the loner protagonist coming of age story, contrasted by the confusing narrative and mysteries, results in something truly unique. To this day, while I have watched countless indie movies and horror movies and pretentious art house stuff and modern day slop and classics, I have yet to see anything come close to the experience of watching Donnie Darko, especially for the first time, and I think I can pinpoint why that is. So today, we'll try to find out what made this movie great, so sit back, eat your lunch, and let's talk about Donnie Darko. Before we talk schizophrenic space rabbits and time travel, I just want to say a quick thank you for 500 subscribers on my channel. While it may seem little in today's YouTube world, it means a great deal to me, and there is a lot more to come, so help me reach 1,000, which is my goal for the year, so you can expect more videos like this. Normally how movie reviews go, people go through the story, then the characters, then the visuals, and so on. Don't get me wrong, I'll get to the story in a second, but this is more of a casual love letter to this film. So what comes to your mind about Donnie Darko first? Well, for me it's the soundtrack. There's Rocky 3 and Eye of the Tiger, there's Top Gun and Danger Zone, and right up there is Donnie Darko with Mad World, and the most perfect selection of songs for a movie. Every single one complementing the scenes or shifting the tone, and the obvious Mad World cover at the end, which sounds like it was written for the movie for how fitting the lyrics are. Donnie Darko is very dependent on the score to achieve a specific tone somewhere between bittersweet but colorful nostalgia and dark science fiction. But that dependence pays off with the bold song choices and the constant jarring tonal shifts. The movie is filled with montages, slow motion shots, showcasing slices of Donnie's life, which are carried by the song selections, which, rather than undermining them, purposefully play into the corny nature of some of these scenes. But the cheesy 80s moments are constantly juxtaposed by the spooky scenes with Frank, the rabbit who keeps manipulating Donnie into doing weird stuff like flooding his school and butchering the school mascot, and delivering apocalyptic foreshadowing about the end of the world.
28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, 12 seconds. That is when the world will end.
At this point we should really take a look at the story, because it's something else for sure. It's a classic example of an iceberg kind of story, where the tip of the iceberg is what you initially experience, but the more you look into it and think about it, the bigger it gets. On the surface, Donnie Darko is about a troubled sleepwalking boy who keeps seeing visions of an entity in a rabbit costume, Frank, who prophesizes the end of the world. Seemingly inexplicably, an airplane's jet engine crashes into Donnie's room, who is saved by his sleepwalking conversation with Frank. Donnie then goes down the rabbit hole, no pun intended, of time travel, saving the world, falling in love, jacking off in front of his psychiatrist, and exposing a child predator masquerading as a motivational speaker. These events seemingly fall perfectly in place, like pieces of a puzzle, as the reason they happen is largely due to Frank making Donnie flood schools, burn houses, and do all kinds of weird things in his sleep. The movie culminates into a fascinating climax during a Halloween costume party, during which Donnie's girlfriend, Gretchen, is killed. Frank, who turns out to be his sister's boyfriend, gets shot in the face, a plane carrying his sister and a teacher among others in a strange vortex above his house. Next, we see Donnie laughing as he accepts his fate and dies under the falling jet engine in his bed, undoing the tragic events, but definitely leaving a mark on the world and those around him. What a strange synopsis. And when you factor in how there is just the tip of the iceberg, as Donnie Darko has pretty detailed lore behind it gets even stranger. Now the best way to understand the movie and the lore is to watch the director's cut, which shows pages from the time travel book serving as the lore guide. And I'm sure there are dozens, if not more videos, explaining every single clue in Donnie Darko, so I won't go super detailed in this one. But the bare bones basics for Donnie Darko is parallel universes. Most of the film takes place in a parallel reality, or tangent universe, in which Donnie is a kind of chosen one, whose job is to return an artifact missing from the, let's call it, main universe. The artifact is the torn jet engine in this case, which is why the plane is not found in the tangent universe. And if that engine remains in the tangent universe for more than 28 days, the universe will be destroyed by a black hole created by the paradox, as the universes are connected by a wormhole. Still with me? Here's where it gets even weirder. To succeed in his task, the Chosen One is granted abilities, like a superhero. Immense strength, power to control elements and see the future, and he is constantly helped by his surroundings, the living and the dead, to set up a situation where the Chosen One is forced to restore order and save the main universe. In this case to ensure that his loved ones survive, even at the cost of his life. I know there's a lot to unpack here, and we could have an hour-long video about the intricacies of the lore, but I would rather focus on the human element of it, the implications of Donnie's choices. What do we have here? We have a character who's looking for his place in the world. He doesn't quite fit in at school or at home. He's not particularly outstanding at anything, but suddenly he's gifted with abilities that elevate him to unique status, which he uses to save the world. Sound familiar? Of course it does. It's the age-old hero's journey. But remember, Iceberg Movie is just the tip.
That's what she said!
The hero's journey storytelling formula has stood the test of time to a point where now it seems more popular to deconstruct it in mainstream media rather than readapting it. Sure, you still see it in a few movies, but most of the classic heroes who have gone through the hero's journey have seen some form of modern adaptation where the formula is subverted. The heroes turn out to be the bad guys, the villain's point of view, the lack of redemption, highlighting the consequences of the hero's actions. These subversive approaches to storytelling have been more and more prominent in mainstream media, and there's nothing wrong with that, inherently. But things can get overboard, to a point where it is now more surprising if a classic hero character isn't subverted in a story. I actually have a video on this topic about villains taking over superhero stories. Check out the link in the description, or at the end of the video. And there are many bad apples as well, like gender swapping an old legacy character and skipping the part where they stumble and have to overcome obstacle after obstacle is not a very creative way to subvert a story. What Richard Kelly has done is actually quite ahead of its time and genius. He flipped that hero's journey on its head before it was cool. First, he took the classic formula: the outcast protagonist becomes the chosen one, gains special abilities, gets the girl and saves the world. But ultimately, the implication is a tragedy. Not just because the hero is dead, but because the world without him is a better place. What makes Donnie an actual hero is not his abilities, it's the fact that while looking for his place in the universe, an angel or corporeal being has shown him a world that is just better than the one he exists in. He's faced with the hardest pill to swallow. Everyone's better off without him, quite literally, because otherwise they would be dead. But there is no celebration of heroic sacrifice, not even acknowledgement. Just a slight hint of déjà vu in the impacted character's expressions. It's incredibly grim when you think about it. Donnie not only accepts this path without glory, he actively pushes towards it, but he happens to experience just the things he felt were missing from his life on his path. Human connections, love, adventure, and most importantly, purpose. That purpose may be dark and tragic, but we all need one. So what can we do? I could gush on and on about the excellent performances as well, the goofy unusual characters, the odd dialogue choices, the realistic brother-sister banter.
Whoa, Elizabeth. Little hostile there.
It feels like the actors are related, truly outstanding acting chops there. A cinematography with shots that ingrain themselves into your brain forever. The fact that the movie was filmed in 28 days, which is exactly the time that passes in it. And so on. But I really wanted this video to be a compact one, focusing on my main takeaway from this cult classic. There are other movies with great acting, cinematography, soundtrack, and so on, but what made Donnie Darko great is the philosophical implications of its narrative, the surprisingly deep lessons in it, and the curious way the movie hides them for us to find on multiple viewings. To wrap up, what are some other movies that made you ponder your purpose in life? Let me know in the comments, and it might end up on the next episode of What Made It Great. I will also be doing regular subscriber and members only polls about what other movies I should cover in this series, so make sure you're subscribed, unless your purpose in life is to miss out on things. You don't want to be that guy, trust me. Did I say members only? Yes, dear non-existent inquiring viewer, ready to throw money at me? Channel membership is now available, so join the crow's nest for shoutouts in my videos, members-only content, and my undying gratitude. And if you're still here, you should be seeing some of my other videos on your screen at this point, alongside the subscribe button, which is obviously redundant, right? Just click on one of them, and I keep yapping during your lunch break about movies, so see you soon.